Inserts. Okay, so we talked about what signal flow and routing is, and inserts are one of the most important aspects of signal flow and routing in doing a mix. Now, there's a couple things that we more commonly use with inserts, and those are going to be our EQ processing and our compression or dynamics processing. And the reason for that is because those two really benefit from the fundamental difference between inserts and auxiliary sends. The big thing about inserts is that they process the whole signal. So if we take a look over again, we remember that the entire signal becomes changed by the processor and returns and it's in its completely changed state. So what we're going to do is kind of demonstrate that. So here's our bass track here. Okay, so if we put an insert here in Pro Tools, there's two types of inserts that we can use. So we have a plug-in insert, which is what we're going to be using the majority of the time. And there's also an I/O insert, which is where we can actually send our signal over to a separate processor. And we can use an outboard processor in this circumstance. But mainly we're going to use our plugins. And so right now I'm going to just go to EQ, and I'm going to go to a one-band EQ3, which is one of the basic ones that comes with Pro Tools. And we're going to just demonstrate how we are really processing the entire signal. So if we turn on our high-pass filter, as you can see here, we pull that all the way down. We're not really doing anything at all. And watch what happens, or listen. As you can tell, there's not any signal lower than this frequency that is passing through. And obviously that's how a high-pass filter works. The information above the frequency, it passes through, and that below doesn't pass through. But the key thing that we're trying to look at right here is how an insert takes a signal, routes that signal to the plugin, and completely processes the signal, and then continues back on through. Notice how our signal right here is reflecting the changes that are made in the plugin. So watch what happens if we bring back the low end. It sounds more full and back to normal, and we can also see that our meter here is displaying that. As we make those adjustments, yes, it sounds different, but you can see that the meter is displaying those same differences there. Okay, so I just wanted to show that example about how our signal is completely being processed when we send it over to an insert. And there we go. So the other options other than EQ are dynamics processors. And so here's our compressor limiter Dynamics 3. And the same kind of thing. If we do some compression to this signal, it's going to compress the entire signal. And what we're going to hear is not a mixture of the original signal plus the compressed signal, but it's just the compressed signal. Okay, now notice what happens if we go to a reverb processor. Now, a reverb processor, you can put on an insert here, but what's going to happen here is a reverb plugin, you're really dealing with two things. You're dealing with the unprocessed signal and the processed signal, the dry and the wet. And we have control over that with our mix control right here. So if we go to 0% mix, we're dry, as you can hear there. If we go to 100%, then we're completely wet, so we're just all the reverb. And so what we would do here is we would adjust the balance between these two, and we'd essentially be using an insert to accomplish part of the same thing that we're doing with an auxiliary send. We're balancing the wet and dry signal. And so in just a second we'll see some of the benefits of doing reverb like this as an auxiliary send and return instead of an insert. But we can always break the rules, and for some circumstance we could use reverb or delay or different things like that as an insert, as you can see that we're doing right here. And so those are inserts, and we'll move along to auxiliary sends in just a second, and that's inserts.